Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680.
Welcome back to another show of InJustice on the Sphere TV, where we discuss the laws of the land and how they affect you, the people. I'm your host, Brennan Dunn. You can reach me on Twitter at LegalMind. That's mine with a Y, because there's always a question to be asked and answered. Joined as always by that black girl magic herself, Alicia Ford. How are you, Alicia?
I'm well, thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the InJustice on the Sphere TV. I am your host, Alicia Ford, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AllieOnSphere. And if I'm not mistaken, Brennan, I believe we have a guest today.
We do. We have
All right.
some additional black girl magic in the form of a former guest host, Jackie Carpenter. How are you, Jackie?
I'm doing well, Brennan. Thank you for asking.
And in case you guys don't remember, Jackie works for the Harris County Public Defender's Office, helping the little people get great results.
Yes, the indigent.
The indigent.
I was going to say they're not little people. They're
they're little people in the eyes of
beings like everybody else.
Yes.
Some of them are taller than you.
Ooh.
Oh, but that's not.
I think I like her hair already.
Well, Jackie, when you're 6'4", it's hard for me to compete with that. But
I said they were taller than you. I didn't mention my height.
I'm just here, so I don't
This is going to be this
fined.
kind of day today. That's all right. I'm up to the challenge of going after these ladies. But ladies, let's go ahead and start off with, as usual, racism in America. Apparently, racism doesn't have enough fortitude and strength in America for white people to feel comfortable. So they have to go back and see what they can do to make sure that white Americans are justly enriched in this country in the form of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the Justice Department looking into affirmative action in universities, citing that it almost irritates me to say this, citing that affirmative action may discriminate against white Americans on the university level. As if white people don't have enough
Of everything.
enough to
Of
give
everything.
themselves
Enough
the
white
world.
privilege?
They feel like, you know what, we are being disenfranchised in our Harvard and Yale universities, and we need to make sure that black people aren't taking away good educations from us good white folks.
So all I hear is you're saying they feel like they're being disenfranchised from their predominantly white institutions.
And
That's what I mean. I'm just trying to clear. I can't get into the mind of a white man, nor do I want to be there, because I might go to my sunken place. But I think this is the stupidest thing I've heard in a very long time. And I will say that it just tails back on who Jeff Sessions is. Like, he is
A racist?
A racist.
I know
yes.
you were about to say something else.
I mean, it's so it just seems like, you know, when Coretta Scott King wrote a letter about him, they didn't want to listen. When I believe it was, who's the spicy, I was going to say something really bad, The spicy young woman that's from Connecticut or New Hampshire.
Maxine?
No, she's a
No,
white
she's- oh.
white woman.
Warren, Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren
Yes.
tried to read that same letter on the floor when he was being nominated,
And they shut her
and they
down.
shut her down.
Yeah.
And this is what we have to live with. This is what we have to live with.
Well,
It all makes sense,
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Well, I guess in a white world, it makes sense.
Well, in a white world that elected Donald Trump president, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this goes to making America great again, meaning that
Making
to make
America
it
white
as white
again.
as possible as we can during this 4-year term.
Yeah.
Because we may not ever get a chance like this again, white America. So it's funny to me because you can't be that disenfranchised if a man like Donald Trump is in office. That is the most enfranchised visual that white people can have.
Well,
You can
well
have
wait a
the-
minute. Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a
Okay.
moment. Because this is exactly what white people said when Barack Obama was president. Oh, blacks can't sit up here and say racism anymore. So we're in post-racial America. So, it's the exact same argument. So you can't say one and not argue the other one.
Well, I don't have to just say one. We can go down the list of his whole cabinet, because what President Obama didn't do and didn't have the luxury of doing was putting an all-black cabinet together to fortify his position, because we don't get the type of allowances that white people get when we do what we want to do, or when we try to do what we want to do. Guaranteed, we can't go around grabbing pussies and still get elected. Guaranteed, we can't go around.
I think you should try it.
And then run for office.
Whew, I almost said something, girl. But we can't eat fried chicken in office.
If you get arrested, I'm
and-
sure you've got plenty
and
of friends.
not be called coons. We can't sit up here and not know how to read a book or know history and then call ourselves smart enough to run multi-billion-dollar businesses without anybody batting an eye. Those are things Barack Obama couldn't do. He had to walk the finest lines of his blackness in order to appease the white people that put him into office. Because guaranteed, even the white people that voted for him, had he come off too black, they would have said, we made a mistake, and not voted for him a second time. So there is a finite difference between what this president is able to do versus what Barack was able to do, President Obama was able to do, and that shows itself and rears its ugly head in this type of nature. You got to remember, historically, black colleges and universities, HBCUs, were instituted because we had nothing of our own, and we were so dejected and so denigrated in the education factor as well as everything else, that they said, you know what, we don't want to give you anything, so we'll give you these $3 to our $100 and let you go find your way on making an education for yourself. Then we get this, and the only reason we have it is because we had nothing. And you have the nerve right now to say, you've given us too much? We need to go back and look at this whole affirmative action thing. Affirmative action exists because we were never given opportunities. It doesn't disenfranchise anybody. What it does is level the playing field. And how can you say that something that tries to level the playing field negatively affects the people for whom it was instituted against?
I would like to blame this on Becky with the bad grades. I'm sure she wrote a letter to Jeff Sessions talking about how she feels she was wronged by not being let into UT because she was a subpar white woman who did not deserve to get in. So, I can't really say that I'm surprised. Jeff Sessions is just Jeff Sessioning. Like, that's really all he's doing. He is being true to who everybody says that he is, which is a racist man running the Department of Justice, which makes no sense, but all the sense in the world if you are going to Donald Trump's base, who probably don't even go to college, who probably go to ITT Tech, the defunct ITT Tech at this point. And he's playing to them. Yeah, look at them. Because what it's going to spin into is discrimination against white people. Look at what Barack Obama did. And look how he's trying to turn it around for us because they let too many black people into our schools. And so, unfortunately, we're stuck with him.
Well, conservatives always use the argument for affirmative action, saying that what it does is it takes away the possibility of letting the best minds in, because you have to let a certain demographic in, regardless of how good they may or may not be. But to that point, I think if you have 80% of that population already being white Americans, if you can't find out of your 80% the best of what you have to offer in 80%, then you don't need to have 100%, because something is probably wrong with you as a whole. Moreover, when you talk about why we were given that 10, 15, 20% in the first place, if you think that our 10 to 15% is going to give us lackluster performance, then why does it hurt you to let us in? And also, you have to understand that we're not given the opportunities, and that's what affirmative action is about. It's not necessarily about giving the best of the best the chance. It's about giving people who never were even given the chance to show that they are in fact worthy of having said chance to begin with. And when you take that away from us, you're letting us know effectively that we're not even worthy of your consideration, because we don't get to be afforded. If you see a name that says LaQuanique Johnson, that application is passed up by virtue of the name, not by virtue of their abilities, not by virtue of their intelligence. White person, Becky with the bad hair, just because your name is Becky, you get to, let me look at, well, I still got to look at this. She may not be the best, but I'll at least scrutinize it and see. LaQuanique doesn't get the scrutiny. She gets simply passed over, and that's what affirmative action is about, giving us the chance to at least be looked at and recognized, and not passed over as if we were nothing.
And I think it unfortunately, and I think part of that is, if that's a conservative's argument, that they're making the supposition that by letting in these minorities, you're now keeping out the brightest of minds. To me, I'm going to just cut the bottom of people who are just barely making it in. I'm not going to cut the best people that are going to gain entrance to my school. I'm actually going to cut the people that were mediocrely on the line, where I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll put you on the waiting list, or you just made it because somebody else dropped out. Just let them not get in. But either way, we're stuck here. And unfortunately, and we all know, or we should know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, affirmative action benefits white women the most.
Yes.
So it does not even per se benefit minorities the most. Affirmative action grants white women the most access to things that they had no access to. So it's not like we're sitting here and let's just not even talk about white feminists, because they don't even include black women. So I mean, we have to look at the truth of the matter is, this is just a race bait policy that he's doing, and like the rest of the administration.
He wants to go back to separate but equal.
Yeah.
Separate, but we don't care if it's equal.
Yeah, exactly.
Separate, but do your own thing.
Separate, but
separate. Just get out of our institution.
Separate. We'll call you Americans because we have to, but know that we don't consider you to be our type of American.
Yeah.
And that's
separate,
what it boils.
but feel free to go back to Africa.
yeah.
Separate, but we'll pay for that cruise line ship to take you back to Africa.
And it's like,
Where they don't want us.
That's a whole. Let's not even get into that. That's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother.
Well, why someone's naming their child LaQuanique is also a whole nother story. So I'm gonna give you a pass on that.
You know what? We're gonna have a conversation about that before the end of the show. I want to discuss that particular topic. But before we move on, I want to go ahead and get some of these coins in and talk about the fact that this portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? 33%, or more than 77 million Americans, don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say that they don't have enough savings. Don't become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email them at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask them how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance is the new face of the new age of financial services. Now, to tie this in and talk about just how egregiously denigrated we are as a people, and how this systemic and systematic racism works from education into our everyday lives, we're going to go over to Baltimore and talk about the fact that Baltimore police officers this is blowing my mind. Well, it's not blowing my mind because I've heard this type of story before, but the fact that they're actually highlighting this. Baltimore police officers were found on body cams to have been planting evidence on suspects. So much so that they've had to throw out literally hundreds of cases that several of these officers worked on. These officers colluded together to, hey, let me find a bag of drugs. Hand me that bag of drugs. Let's toss it on this person. Well, guess what? We now have a marijuana case against this person. And it's sad. I actually know officers who have told me that if they don't like a person, they've got a baggie ready to plant on them. I have officers that have actually told me this before. So this isn't new to me.
We need names.
I can't give names. I can't give names because it was
she needs names.
because this was given told to me as I guess as a consultation under
attorney-client
privilege. So I can't give
right,
names.
I'm gonna give you a
However,
pass.
I can verify that this is not an isolated incident and that it happens. And when we talk about people that say, well, I didn't do it, or they put that on me, we're so quick to say, man, you're lying. Man, you're doing this. But this isn't the first time that we've seen evidence has been tampered with. We had that huge case up north where they were dealing with drug testing being modified.
Wasn't that in Massachusetts?
It was in Massachusetts
Yeah.
that they had that. Even in Harris County, they had an issue.
Yes.
Over in Houston, they had an issue
With
like
the
that
crime lab,
with the crime
correct,
lab
yes.
manipulating evidence. And when you talk about systemic racism and the systems that we live in, this is a prime example of what we are up against, because they're not targeting good white Americans. They're targeting us black thug Americans, as they like to call us, and saying, look, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you create the issue and then talk about the issue will be there and present itself statistically. So when you say, well, black people are always dealing with drugs, black people are always putting themselves in bad positions. Well, when you put us in those bad positions, we have no choice but to be in a bad position. I'm irritated.
I'm sorry.
I'm irritated.
I'm sorry.
And this is the same place where Miss Mosby fought so hard to get these officers charged and indicted, and
she got a lot of resistance
and got all kinds of flack. People calling for a badge, saying that, hey, as a prosecutor, you went above and beyond your responsibility in trying to find justice for this man who was wrongly killed and unarmed.
I just want to know how the officers' union's going to defend this one now. I mean, they were all over her when she was sitting there trying to make sure that, those officers were correctly charged with the crime that they may have committed or that they did commit. But where are they going to be now? Kind of like, I hope, what do they have to say about these officers who are, planting evidence, which, as you said, it's not a new thing. It's not something that's, made up. But now we have proof, and then you're now tainting your interaction with people. You're now tainting your relationship with the community that you serve, because now I don't want to call the police because what if they plant drugs on me? Now I don't deserve to have a crime-free neighborhood because
or what if they shoot you?
Yeah, that's a given. And so at this point it's kind of like, how do you win for losing? Like I don't understand how at all. And then we get our president telling, well, just throw them in the squad car and let their
Matter of fact, he said, continue to do what you're doing. Be harder on these guys. Like, how do you deal with that, Jackie? As a public defender, what's your take on this?
I agree with you that it's all systemic. There was recently a study done. Harris County is changing a few things with regards to how they do bonds, and I'm sure you're aware of that. And so they have a new assessment tool. And in that assessment tool, what they found is that the moment someone who is low risk for committing crimes or getting in trouble ends up in jail, they miss a few days from work and everything just snowballs after that. It's one thing after another, after another. They're sitting in jail, so they miss work. Now they don't have money. Now they can't provide for their family. And missing 2 or 3 days from work when are
a certain socioeconomic status,
it will take you completely out.
You're
and
right.
So 3 days is a long time to sit in jail and wait to get out just to later, they go, oh, we'll give you time served, or, oh, we didn't really think you did anything wrong. Oh, we'll dismiss your case. The damage is already done. Mm-hmm. And when we look at Philando Castile, this is a man who got pulled over 52 times in a very short period of time. Why? Why is he targeted so much? But he had all these traffic tickets. Those traffic tickets caused him to be backed up on being able to stay current on his driver's license and that sort of thing. So you kind of constantly stay in trouble with the law. So I'm not, to have officers planting evidence, it creates that snowball effect where someone is really innocent and yet they can't pull themselves out of the mess that was created for them.
And I don't think people think or look at the ramifications of just something like you said of getting arrested, because if you get arrested for some low level offense and you don't have money to bond out, I mean, like you said, what happens? You will probably lose your job for staying in jail for 3 days regardless, because they feel you shouldn't be in jail. Even if it wasn't your fault, you can't go back to your employer and be like, look, I really didn't do it. And I mean, he doesn't want to hear that. You just weren't there to make or fulfill or do whatever it is that I needed to do. So, I mean, when we're thinking about reform that we need, I think it still goes back to training. It still goes back to, are we recruiting people from the community to serve the community? And that's probably what we need to do. But we have such apprehension, I don't know, as a Black community to say, hey, I mean, I don't know many people signing up to be policemen and or having a stigma about being a policeman, especially in this day and age, because it's not a good thing when you hear the police now. Right. When it should be, oh, let me
say
call
now.
these people.
I don't know if it's ever been a good thing.
Not in the Black community.
I mean, exactly. But at still some point, we were calling them without per se fear of dying.
I think that's because social media wasn't showing us just how much we were undervalued. We've always had we've always talked about it amongst ourselves, but social media in the internet age has really blown up the spot, so to speak, on this.
We knew we were undervalued.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we knew,
that wasn't the issue. It wasn't about whether or not we knew we were undervalued. The question was people didn't believe that the police would do the wrong thing. So unless you see it with your own eyes, then it becomes something you can't really process.
Well, speaking of processes, this is a process that we go through every week on Facebook Live. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. Make sure that you subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Android. We are everywhere that you want us to be. Review the show on iTunes and give us constructive feedback. Matter of fact, share this Facebook Live post with your friends and your family. The more people see it, the more we can reach out and keep people informed. And don't forget to donate your coins to help this cause, to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. Facebook Live, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Make sure to watch the rest of the show. It'll drop later on this evening, as it does every single week.
See you next time.
Now, keeping on this systemic issue that we have, you talk about Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He was the president appointed a task force to recommend crime reduction and public safety tactics and policy changes. There is a senator over in Oregon, Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, has written an open letter to Attorney General Jeff Sessions saying, hey, let's not make this clandestine. Let's not make this a secret, because we don't know what this task force is telling you as far as statistics are concerned, because the DOJ makes a lot of their decisions based off of statistical analysis in theory. But we know that this theory and the practical analysis don't always match up. Sometimes it's somebody's own personal agenda to make America great again, and not necessarily the statistical analysis that says, hey, we need to be doing X, Y, and Z. Namely, we've got the Attorney General's office and the DOJ has been pushing harder immigration reform. They've been pushing going back on the President Obama's drug reduction tactics. They've gone back on the sentencing guidelines and how much time certain people would be given time on federal crimes. So this clandestine task force is supposed to be giving information to the DOJ, and purportedly the DOJ is making their decisions based on this information. But are they really? So he wants us to open this up because, again, this is another one of those systemic issues where who's really doing the moving and the shaking.
I mean, I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, just Jeff Sessions. That's all I have to say. I mean, like, I don't have any more to give this man. Like,
You're giving him all that you got, Captain.
Other than the fact that Trump's and his agenda is to roll back anything that President Obama did.
Just for the sake of doing it.
If he said it's good that kids eat every day for breakfast, so we're going to make sure that they can eat, they're probably going to show you a study where it says that children work better on an empty stomach. I mean, so it's kind of like you can't really... I mean, it's like it's so unnerving that you become numb to it because you're just like, well, I'm just waiting for the day when they tell me I'm a slave again. You know, like I just want, when are they going to repeal that? I mean, I just want to know. So it's just kind of like, you know, I wanted to say to one of my white counterparts, if they do make me a slave, promise me you'll revolt. Like, you know, just because I mean, it is that scary what they are doing because the long-term effects are going to lead to, again, they were already trying to stop mass incarceration and then the ill treatment of prisoners, right? By sitting there saying, we're not going to use private run prisons anymore. Jeff Sessions comes in and is like, fool, you thought we weren't, but we are. You know, so it's kind of like he's keeping going with this thought of put them away a long time. And while we are, let's make some money off of them. And so I can't really say that, you know.
That's slavery.
Exactly. What did they say? Prison is the new slavery?
It is.
And so it's kind of like, I can't, to think that he was confirmed with such little protest by anybody. And if Trump were to get rid of him, everybody would be upset. This man, they offered to send him to the Department of State or whatever.
You know, that's what kills me. Because now President Trump is saying, oh, I'm, displeased with him. And everybody is so upset. It's like, why? Why? Because he was all about their agenda.
Mm-hmm. He's a good old boy. Like, if you ever want to see a definition of a good old boy, I promise Jeff Sessions is right there, and probably all of his lineage. And so it's kind of like, and then I saw how short the man was. Okay, that's a whole nother topic, but I was like, he got issues going on inside himself. But
he's like a racist Gerber baby.
He is. I mean,
that's what I see. Like, I just want to.
I wasn't ready for that. I thought you were gonna say a racist Napoleon.
Oppression.
But if you listen to him, I mean, you know what? When I listen to him speak, his accent tells me everything about his life and where
that's
he's
unfair
from.
to all those other country Southerners that may not necessarily adhere to the
from his time period.
Yeah, you got old white people that are not racist
Absolutely
now.
right.
Oh my gosh! All right.
I mean, you're right.
Come on now, let's give
from Jeff Sessions' town. I'm just gonna make it real particular. I'm just, you're right. I'm gonna just make it very particular. I doubt any from his town are just 100% welcoming black people or minorities or gay people.
Well, I do believe in the power
or women for that matter.
Of change, and just because you call it a black man a nigger once in your life
doesn't mean you're gonna do it again.
Doesn't mean that you're necessarily gonna always have that type of feeling, because people do change over time.
You're right. Nothing in he has never had
I'm not talking about Jeff.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute.
I'm not talking about Jeff. I'm talking about the people that you said in his neighborhood.
Okay.
Just because they used to call a nigga, it doesn't mean that they do it now. They might say
no. They say thug.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is the new N-word.
I think you know what, that is right.
It is
right.
The new N-word.
You're right. That's a good one.
These thugs.
Yeah.
Thugs. And it's that word where you can say it, and then if you try to call anyone out on that, they can go no. I admit, and then they apply a definition. It's sort of universal, so it's very vague. Just like at the Harris County, but before this current administration, they used to call black people Canadians. That was the code word, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Look
My
at you
goodness.
dropping
That's
historical knowledge on us.
Oh, that's old.
Well, now. Yeah. Well, history tends to repeat itself over and over. And over in Texas, we've got a young lady, Brianna Harmon, 19-year-old, who told Denison cops that she had been raped by 2 assailants while a third person held her down. Obviously, since we're talking about it, these assailants were
Canadian?
there you go. They had that Canadian bacon laid on her.
No.
No?
No.
Well,
No.
all right. Well, we tried.
You tried.
We
I
tried
said
together.
no.
You
I thought it
always
was kinda
still
funny.
still enjoy.
I thought it was kind of funny.
'Cause
You
these
like the melanated devil. We got white devils and melanated devils.
Can you continue with your
Oh,
thought?
sure. I'm sorry. You
Can-
got
just
me all
continue.
sidetracked.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
gosh.
Canadian bacon.
yes. She lied about this Canadian bacon. Said 3 black men had taken advantage of her, brought her into the woods, and did what they had to do. The teen had run into a church wearing only a shirt, bra, and underwear. However, the cuts on her jeans didn't match the cuts on her legs. The nurse didn't find any evidence of actual sexual assault in her vajayjay area.
Stop.
Everything just didn't add up. Matter of fact, the teen had deleted a Snapchat before the alleged attack. So a lot of questions happened. And then fast forward, she admits, you know what? I lied about this. I'd actually started cutting myself and it cut into the jeans. When I realized what I'd done, I just had to make up a story. It was a lot of rigmarole mentally for her. So now she's looking at up to 10 years in prison for this. I want something to happen to her, but I am fearful that nothing will happen to her. And to me, and I say history repeats itself because we've had this happen time and time again.
Have you seen Rosewood?
I have seen Rosewood. You know, they
This
had
is Rosewood.
Big Mama all
This
up
is
in that
Rosewood.
heavy ass coffin. But anyway,
You have a white woman who lied on a black man.
well, that's Emmett Till.
And Emmett Till.
Yeah.
And they burned the whole city to the ground.
And it, to me, there's never any men are quick to be vilified and villainized when that term rape accusation comes up. You immediately assume that they did it because the immediate thought process is, well, why would a woman ever lie about such a heinous act? However, and goes back to what you're talking about with cops. How could a cop ever do something like this? That's the initial premise of your thought process. But we've started to see time and time again that women lie, men lie, and that sometimes people are just lying, and we shouldn't be so quick to judge the accused. And that's part of the system that we have, that you are innocent until proven guilty, whether it be Bill, Mr. Cosby, or whether it be these 3 unknown assailants that she's talking about, that you can't always put all of your hopes and dreams into, 1, what the media tells you is going on, and 2, what somebody's alleging that's going on. Because especially with a crime like rape, I've told you before, Alicia, I feel like if you are an assaultive rapist, you should have your penis chopped off and you can go on with God at that point. I really don't care. But there has to be a punishment, and a real punishment, for people who would take such a heinous crime and apply it to somebody who it should not be applied to. I think if you're, once you're accused, you get your life taken away. I mean, you are always looked at with that what if stigma. And I think that whatever value is taken from you should be applied in the punishment for somebody who lies about it. I don't think there should be a misdemeanor offense. I don't think it should be, you get a year in jail. If the punishment range was for a rapist was 5 to life, you should get at least half that time too. Spend 30 years in jail or prison thinking about what you did.
Defense lawyers spend a lot of time talking to juries or potential jurors, and there's this question that comes up, what could be worse, than raping a child? Like, child rape is like one of those things that's so awful, everyone just sort of shuts down. And the answer we're really looking for is for someone to speak up and say, being accused of raping a child, like, when you really didn't do it. That's worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a pedophile, you're a pedophile, right?
You deserve everything you're going to get.
But if you're not a pedophile and you're accused of that, you're never going to live it down. And same thing with someone accused of raping a woman, for forever. Everyone's going to look at you and go, oh, but, I don't know if I can be alone in a room with you. I don't know if I'm safe with you.
I think and see, I hope they do. Well, I'm hoping that
they throw the book at her.
Yeah, and because when you looked at
And
it,
that's
when
a
they
heavy
said,
encyclopedia.
hey, we were going to charge her with a misdemeanor, but we were like, when we looked at the gravity of her actions, she deserves felony charges. So the fact that they're even looking like, no, what you did here ain't even.
Look at the lengths that she went to in order to prove her story up. I mean, she had cut herself. She put bruises on herself. She ripped her clothes. She went running half naked into, a public area. Look at what she did in order to justify her own actions.
That never happened to her. And when you think about it, I just want her to get all 10 of them years. Because those men, I do. I mean, I know she's probably not, but I want her to get all 10 of them, just like Brennan said, because you
realize she's probably going to get probation.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. No, I know nothing's going to happen to her.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I didn't. I
get
don't
ready for it. She's about to get probation. She's going to be told. She's going to be slapped on the hand, and she's going to on the wrist. She's going to be told, "Don't do that again."
Kind of like
next
when the
time
Emmett
it's going to be
woman
really
came
bad.
back and just wanted to speak when she was on her deathbed, or she about to die,
which is
something.
bullshit to me. And then it's problematic when you said they went back and looked at it again and said the lengths that she went. The length that she went should have stopped at she lied. Regardless of whatever else she did to fortify that lie, you lied about a man taking your purity and three times over, and you put these men in the most terrible position they could ever be in, and that stigma will always. But I know you didn't do it. But what if?
And what did she do? Did she walk out and just point to the first 3 black men she saw? Him. They're all standing together. They're thugs.
And we don't look at the liars the same way we look at the attackers.
Well, no, because they're trying to make excuses for her about how she's got to be mentally ill. No, she's just a vindictive idiot. Like, she's just stupid, vindictive idiot.
Well, they're saying she's mentally ill because she's cutting on herself.
I don't care.
But you always know that's how it goes. When we do it, we're thugs. When they do it, we're an isolated, disturbed person. There's always
Dylan
a different
Roof.
paradigm for it.
Oh, he was just disturbed. No, that fool just wanted to kill some black people because that's what he felt he wanted to do.
Y'all have terrible people too. Damn it. And that's my problem with it.
Y'all had terrible people first, damn it. I mean, look. You can sit here. I'm not gonna claim that unnecessarily. First, I mean, we got terrible people, but first, let's the line of succession. We learned from y'all.
Y'all's terrible people take out a lot more people than our terrible people do. Y'all like mass terrible people. Like, we individualize our terribleness. We got a problem with Pookie, we go get Pookie. Y'all got a problem with Emma Jean. Y'all go take Emma Jean, Emma Till, Mary Jo, Mary Lane,
the whole post office,
shoot up a whole theater,
everybody, the whole campus.
We get fired, we go after the boss. Y'all get fired, y'all go after the whole floor.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn. Like,
just gonna set up a bomb off.
Yes.
Let's target our ridiculousness a little bit better. But this portion of the show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States, as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. And since I like the way you're educating us out here today, Jackie, let's talk about education over in Florida.
Ooh, a compliment from Brennan.
Well, even the light shines on. Let me stop.
No.
A new Florida law lets residents challenge school textbooks. Florida, this man named Keith Flaw is a retired IBM executive. He helped found Florida Citizens Alliance, a conservative group that fought unsuccessfully to stop Florida from signing on to Common Core educational standards. There's a new state law developed and pushed through by Flaw's group, and allows parents and any residents to challenge the use of textbooks and instructional materials they find objectionable via an independent hearing. So that means that the stuff that they don't like, they can say, look, we don't like it just because it doesn't fit our sensibilities, regardless of if it's historically accurate. It needs to be taught. So the more you learn, the more you know, and the more you know how not to fuck up in the future. Because surely we learn from history so we don't repeat it in theory. But again, white tears, as salty as they are, they're strong. And the strength of these tears.
You sound kind of salty, Brittany.
The strength of these
Go ahead and
tears
cry.
has led these people to say, give us the ability to challenge history.
Well, but you know what?
You know what they're going to take out,
But,
right?
but I feel like hopefully people in Florida also see this as a chance, as what they say, the day the grave you dig for me is the one that you're going to get buried in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, I hope that people who look at these textbooks, minorities, other people, and say, hey, look, this is an accurate depiction of what really happened, and use this law to their advantage. That's what I would hope happens. Like the ACLU can jump in on some of this or something and just get in there and help them out instead of these people. I don't know, by climate change, there's a bias. Are you serious, sir? We've been warming up this earth for quite some time. And so it's kind of like they just basically they're telling it that these textbooks have a revisionist history. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, because they downplay most of the brutalities of the formation of this country to a ship, some Indians, maybe a meeting here and there in Pennsylvania, a war that took place, some slaves, sprinkled and peppered around, a gold rush, and here we are in 2017. Like, that's really what you get out of history most times. And children are being served a disservice because at the same time, they're like, well, that's how you inbreed this. Well, it's not so bad. And civil rights, Martin Luther King, he was so peaceful and nice. Yay. Like, that's what you get. And we need to really challenge that. We need more. We need the Martin Luther King that wrote a letter.
No, so we don't want to talk about Martin being a hoe?
First of all, that is not...
Because he was both a great man and a hoe.
Okay, first of all...
They're not mutually exclusive.
But in this instance...
Oh, my bad.
I'm not going to include that part of his humanity.
Speaking of revisionist history.
Yeah, you just, I'm not going to sit there and say that he was who he... But, I mean... If you want to go there, Malcolm X was Detroit Red before he was Malcolm X. So, I mean...
But they will never give Malcolm a statue. Never. Will they ever.
I'm just saying things like we never got to the point where we know that Martin Luther King was also going down the road of Malcolm X because he realized this wasn't working.
Oh, yeah. They killed him before he could put up his Black Panther fist.
So it's kind of like... Hopefully they use this law to empower themselves.
The Black Panthers were originally...
Black police to help us and secure and protect us.
Get us.
I say police, but that's not the most appropriate term.
It was about getting us to vote, though.
Mm-hmm. And protecting the neighborhoods from police brutality.
So,
as it stood.
Black Panthers kind of have a bad rap, but that's not how it started out.
Oh, yeah. Just like the word Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom is not really a coon. Uncle Tom actually promoted and helped black people.
He had a cabin, didn't he? Okay.
All right. But, and they
I think that goes to show, how we can kind of know some things and there can be a revisionist spin on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, changing textbooks, I think the problem is you're going to end up with a whole bunch of people. Who's the majority in this country? Right?
Yes.
So who's going to end up getting their way?
Oh, absolutely. That's just like this whole talking about something we talked about way before Colin Kaepernick, and his issues with getting back in the NFL, speaking truth. People are so upset with him speaking the truth that they won't give this man a job. When you talk about him putting up those pictures of the police badge versus the slave patrol and them saying, how dare you equate the two? But historically, factually, this is where the modern day police arose from. Slave patrols going back out to hunt down slaves that ran away that had that same badge insignia that is used today. So you can't get mad at us for speaking the truth just because you don't like that truth.
So unfortunately, who runs this country is,
Girls.
them. And so, they run the world. And so it's kind of like you realize, I don't know, whenever they get comfortable with their whiteness and whatever it is that was perpetrated as a result of it. I mean, because I'm not sitting here asking you to lay prostrate before me and beg for my forgiveness as a black person. I'm just saying, look, dude, understand that you did those things. Understand that you still continually keep us out of certain spaces, places, and educational facilities, and grant us access like we deserve.
We
Like,
don't all want 40 acres and
I
a mule.
mean,
Give
my
me 100 yards and a
my-
bicycle. And I'm
Where are you
just-
going
Huh?
with 100 yards and a bicycle?
You know, you can build a house on 100 yards.
Oh my gosh!
That's
You
a
want
football
to do
field.
one of them?
Shotgun.
Okay.
New Orleans style.
All right.
With a basement.
Somebody from New Orleans, please tell him you offended.
First of all, anyway.
Oh,
Boy, I tell you, yeah, it's hard out here for a young,
Brennan.
educated black
Brennan.
brother
Just a Brennan.
just trying to make it in this world.
who are you
being
talking
held
to?
down
Who are you
by
preaching
the
to?
woman melanated.
Who are you talking
popping.
to?
Wait,
Who?
so you have a problem with melanated women,
No, I don't have a problem. Y'all are so,
y'all?
yes, you all.
Uh-huh.
You all is in you too.
We're so what?
Y'all are so.
Just us two? Because it kind of sounded like it was.
It was
a
like
very,
that. Yeah, but
It was
all.
all.
Well,
I thought it was a universal application to melanated.
anyone
women.
under the sound of my voice who this hurts, then it probably affects you.
ain't no dogs
So-
hollering because you ain't hit me with nothing. Like, what are you talking about?
You hadn't even said anything yet. It's just
Ooh.
before you went there, I wanted to be
Ooh, there
very
we go.
clear and specific about
I'm
who
just saying.
it was you were about to go there.
As a black
on.
man in this country, we already have everything stacked against us, but our black women just don't support us the way
Do
we
you
need
actually
to be
believe
supported.
what you're saying right now? Like, do you believe what you're saying right now?
You know, I'm just talking for the sake of talking. But as we continue to talk, we'll get back to talking. But first, I need to talk about some things that are going to give
Yes.
us some coins. Meaning that this portion of the show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Chandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness at 713-789-8680. Now, going back really quickly on this revisionist history, they did it under the auspices saying that these science and science theories that need to be questioned in a certain way, that you have to have a balance between nature versus nurture and the theory of evolution versus the Big Bang theory. But guaranteed, it'll start there. You know,
They'll change one sentence in that book.
in
about
order to
that.
get us to the point where they start doing stuff like saying, we brought helpers over from Africa to help
I'm sorry.
us
No,
with
no,
the
no, no, no,
land.
no, no. Get it correct. We brought immigrants over from Africa on slave ships.
So
They're not
that's
going to call them slave ships.
on
big floating boats.
Well,
I mean, that's from Dr. Ben
we call
Carson
them
though. Those
urban
immigrants
cruise
came
liners.
over.
Urban
No,
cruise
that's-
liners.
That's Dr. Ben Carson.
That's what we call those things. You know,
Only
A
immigrants.
cruise liner?
urban cruise liners.
Okay.
So that's
Soul
why they-
Plane.
Caribbean.
Okay.
Anyway, in the time that we talk about things, we always talk about black versus white or minority versus majority.
Or male versus female.
Or male versus female. I'm glad
Black
you.
woman versus black man.
Now we have to.
Even
add
though there's
in-
no greater support for the black man than the black woman. But go ahead.
Well, now we have to add, and I'm glad you brought up black man versus black woman, or
No, you
woman
brought
versus
that up
man.
earlier.
Like I said, I'm glad you brought it up.
Why?
We've got a new type of attitude out here that has to be talked about, which is used to be man versus current man versus used to be woman versus current woman, cis boom ba versus transgendered. And we have this thing going on now that's prevalent in society where in the trans community, trans folks are out here dying because they are trans and purportedly not disseminating the fact that they are trans people to those who they sexually encounter.
Do you watch Survivor?
Well, I am a survivor, but I have watched Survivor.
I don't know
I
what's
can't
going
with
on
you.
here.
Why do you ask?
Because this last season on Survivor,
Oh, no, I don't watch it like that.
there was a transgender person
Mm-hmm.
and a different person who was a civil rights lawyer outed the transgender person and it became this big, huge blow up on social media, and everybody on the island was crying about it.
Crying about what? The fact that they've been outed?
The fact that that one person had been outed, yeah.
Why are we crying?
Were they crying
Because apparently you're not supposed to out anyone. That's
What-
the
but-
most horrendous thing you
what?
can do.
So,
What? It's not like you're gay. It's just, I don't.
Well, I don't.
Wait,
I mean,
are
I don't
you gay?
know. I mean, so I don't
See,
know. So I don't know how all of this
so-
works.
This
But-
whole new
Like,
this whole new
yeah.
field of genderism is so confusing, and what the part of the problem is, because it's so new, we as
A society.
cis society are confused by what exactly the trans community wants in
Can they
terms
put
of
out
how
a
they're
procedural manual
I
so
mean-
we could at least understand like what it is?
So
that
they can start with the
expectation
PREA Act.
so
Yeah.
we're going to break
So
this down
you
into
know
a couple
that there
of things.
is an act that was it's called the PREA Act, and I forget what PREA stands for, but it's about recognizing people's gender based on what they say their gender is. So if you go to jail and they ask you how, Brennan,
Yes.
what are you? Are
I'm
you
a
male
man.
or female? How do
I
you
am a
identify?
boy, Damon.
And Damon. And you identify yourself as female. They will put you in a female tank.
I wish they would.
Well, this gives me something to think about if I'm ever sent to prison, because
No, don't do it. Well, you're in the prison. What are you gonna get from that? What are you gonna get from that? Stop. I know your mind
vagina.
is-
That's what I'm going to get from that. If I'm in
Okay.
prison, I'm going to get
Okay, you
vagina.
also have no birth control in prison.
What? I'm in prison. I
I
don't
mean,
care
like,
about child support.
I mean,
That was the
you're
worst
cool.
argument that you could ever give me.
I mean,
What?
but I mean,
I'm out here making babies for life. Come on now. Please, lend me your JJs in prison. Now,
oh God.
we're going to hit this a couple of different ways. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie just signed a bill.
That was a funny phrase.
into-
You gotta hit it. After you just said, give me your vajayjay.
well, I mean, that's what you do
A
with the
couple of
JJ.
different ways.
You hit it
I'm just saying.
in a
You're the
couple
one
of
that
different
said
ways. You stay long enough, I'll show you. I learned
Oh,
you
my
something.
way.
But anyway,
Gosh.
Governor Chris Christie, you get me off track, signed a bill into law
I just don't
this
think
last
you can
Friday.
teach me anything, but
Girl,
that's beside the point.
challenge accepted. In this bill, there are certain guidelines, among others, that are highlighted, including definitions of terms relevant to understanding transgender issues, as you've asked for. Also, enumerating confidentiality and privacy concerns, including ensuring that school personnel do not disclose information that may reveal a student's transgender status, except as allowed by law. Issuing school documentation as student IDs that corresponds with the student's gender identity. Permitting transgender students to dress in accordance with their gender identity, and using restrooms and locker rooms that identify with their transgendered identity. Part of this, I'm all for people being able to live their lives as a human being, first of all. Secondly, as an American with all the rights that it should be afforded to you as an American citizen.
I agree.
Part of my issue, though, is at what point is it protecting one group harming another group? And what I mean by that is a lot of there have been at least 16 transgendered killings in America this year. First and foremost, I am not condoning, nor do I agree with the use of deadly force against somebody simply because you have been bamboozled, hustled, run amok. If you end up in this Bobby Valentino world of transgenders and you didn't know about it, it shouldn't get to the point where you take a life. Your life is still here. Their life should still be here. However, that being said, I understand the concept of being so mad that you lash out at somebody.
It's a heat of passion crime. It's
Right.
a
And to me, there's no different. I don't understand why a transgendered person shouldn't have to conform to disclosing what they were originally, the same way an HIV person is supposed to disclose that. And you might say, well, HIV, that's akin to murder, so to speak. But I think that
the way this is working out, it's the same thing.
I think that having sex with a transgender person is the same thing as when you apply the whole rape allegation to somebody as stigma. It is the type of stigma that will last with you forever and in perpetuity.
And I just think, well, here's my thing, and when I hear all these people, I don't have to tell you. Yes, you do. What if as a man, you meet this wonderful woman, you love her, everything's going great. She can't make you any children. Biologically, if that's what you wanted as something as part of your life, she cannot biologically, physiologically produce an offspring for you. You should tell somebody that, like, just on the base level, if that's what you want. Or how do you know that I am comfortable, regardless of what you look like, with wanting to be with somebody who was not originally born a woman, because I have personal preferences, which is what they're taking away. And this is sometimes, I hate to say it, and y'all can sit there and vilify me, but I feel like sometimes the LGBTQ community
plus
don't forget LGBTQI.
They sit there and deem people who are not the same way, who are saying I don't want to do that, as being discriminatory, when it's just basically expressing a preference in dating. That's all it is. It's just like me saying I don't want to date you because you're a black man. That would be a preference. You don't have the right to discriminate and call me all kind of names, because that's just not what I like. And I find that sometimes that's what happens with this community, that instead of saying that's that person's preference, you're being discriminatory. And that doesn't make sense to me. First of all, please the Lord, just if a man was once a woman and they are approaching me, I want to know if you were ever
wholeheartedly
once a woman.
I barely want to talk to you if you've got a head full of weed, because I don't know if you're nappy headed and bald headed underneath. By all means, let me know if you have a penis to go along with that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The basics, in my opinion, because I'm not out here trying to have a whole dick right next to me. That's just not who.
That's
who
not
I
what's happening.
I think you can assume that people are nappy headed under their weed.
Can you assume it? Because some women,
I'm
some
natural.
women are saying,
natural,
"Oh
so
no, I
embrace...
have long flowing locks under this," and then when they actually get it removed, it looks like the
well,
struggle.
this is all I've learned about men and hair. If he got something to say about it, that's the wrong man. Other than, girl, you need to comb it. That's the wrong one to be with, because he's worried about the wrong things in life.
No, some women got corn chip hair. You just never know what you're getting at. You just don't know. He's happy hair. I don't know. But anyway, just like over in College Park, over in the Atlanta area, transgender woman was just shot and killed based on the surmisation that she was engaged with a guy who didn't know that she was naturally a he. And first of all, if you look at it being the picture, because I'm not going to be disrespectful and say, but look at him, and you can see that this gentleman has some very distinct, strong features. In this day and age, if your jaw is too square, I'm asking questions
there
off the
are
bat.
women with a jaw like that.
Okay. I think that in this day and age, knowing that you've got all this transgender stuff going on, that men need to ask.
Yeah, and
right?
you should be, and a woman doesn't need to be offended. And if you see, if somebody does not quickly reply, "Fool, I'm a woman," then you might need to take.
You need to be indignant.
That's like as
when
a
I
woman,
ask you the question, you got to be indignant about the fact that I just asked you the question. Like, if you like, yeah, I'm a woman. Nope, you're not angry enough for me.
Well, okay, but
no,
that's
just
just like I will ask men before dating them, have you ever slept with a man?
You asked that question?
Yes.
Damn.
That's a good one.
That's harsh. As a man, we got probably like, hell nah. Or if you have done it, you're like, oh no. But,
well, I mean, but if a man says, so I mean, if we're on a date and you're just like, were you once a man? I'll be like, what? Like, what? Dude, I know my feet is big and my hands tend to be larger than most, but you tripping, So I mean, like,
I think I'm gonna start doing a new tactic. I'm just gonna reach in, like I'm gonna whisper something to you, and then real quick rub your Adam's apple area.
Oh my god!
Just real quick.
Girl,
what I'm saying? Let me get a little touch. Let me get a little touch.
No, that's
like, all right,
not what
we
you
cool.
can do. That's so romantic. Like, you can guarantee you will never see that woman again.
I'll be like, girl, I love you.
She's gonna go run another way.
Yes.
But that's the you can either die or I can rub it real quick. Which one do you want?
But I think that the main problem comes back to the fact that there is this feeling that I'm now who I am. Great. I'm happy that you've made this decision for your life. You are now taking away my ability to make a decision for myself by not telling me that you were once a man. Because how do you know that? You see, they feel like, or the people who are advocating in this way feel like, you know what, you don't have a right to know what I once was, but I do.
Right.
Well,
I do.
Well, you know what? I would agree. I don't have a right to know what you once were or what's currently going on in between your legs unless
You're trying to date me.
yes.
That
And
no,
now that
you're
changes
right.
everything.
No.
And at that point, so if what we're about to do is be intimate, then just like people are like, well, if you can't ask certain questions about HIV and their status and when they got tested, then y'all don't need to be sleeping together.
This is
Same thing.
I completely, now mind you, all of my comments are based on the fact that you are trying to enter a romantic relationship with somebody. If you down the street and I see you walking by and you was once a woman and you now man, I
Nobody
don't care.
cares.
I don't care.
And you shouldn't care because
this is not my business.
Because that's a very Republican thing to do, to care when it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
But so Jackie, what I'm hearing from you as the defense attorney is that you think that there should be a duty to disclose in the eventuality of an intimate relationship.
Yes.
I think we're all in agreement on that then. Because so are you in disagreement then with Chris Christie in this New Jersey law that says that you don't have to disclose anything? Because I think to me, you're almost putting these people in danger.
No.
With this type of law.
That's students don't have to disclose what it is to the faculty unless it's absolutely necessary for that.
Because I thought it was just in general. There's no
I
duty
thought it
to
was in the
disclose.
context of education. So if you are a transgender child, whatever that entails, that your teachers or your peers or the people or everybody else don't have to know that. Unless for some reason it's necessary that they know that.
And I'm on the fence, even if it's in a school setting, and Jackie, talk about this. I'm almost on the fence because I get everybody has a right to privacy, and I get you should be afforded that right to privacy. However, is it more of a risk for you to keep it private with the possibility that somebody finds out, and then once they find out while you're trying to keep it private, it becomes a much more dangerous situation for you, rather than getting ahead of it and going ahead and letting people know at the beginning, yes, I'm transgender. That way there's no secrecy, there's no hidden thing.
That goes back to the point of, if you transgender down the street, that ain't my business. We're just learning in school. Like, unless you're going to a sex ed school where all we do is have sex, I don't see how that has to do with anything.
I'm talking about the ignorance of humanity at this point, because we as humans tend to
they need to get over it and pull their kids out of that school.
Over-exaggerate emotions based on ignorance. So clearly, I can be cool. I, being the general I, can be cool with you, hanging out, doing what boys do, playing video games. I have you at my house. I think this is one of the boys. But then I find out through whatever auspice that you were actually a woman, posing as a man. And then I get enraged. Man, I had you at my house doing all And then I lash out at you, versus me knowing at the beginning and having the ability to make a educated or not educated
no one
decision.
No one tells their most deepest secrets just all willy-nilly, right?
So you think it's a good idea to keep it as a non-disclosure in every situation except for intimacy?
Yeah,
pretty much, yes.
And I agree with it, but I'm just afraid of you see the backlash.
But
that's
not the same case with people not telling someone that I was once a man.
You know what? I would want someone to get to know me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, just let's be friends. Let's be cool. Let's see where that goes. And then, as you get deeper into the friendship, maybe it's such a deep friendship that you start to share more secrets. You give them a little nugget of trust. And if that works out, then you can give them a little bit more and you can say, okay, this is my circle here. But I think you have every right to keep your circle relatively small.
Brandon, what's your secrets? We're not gonna tell nobody. It might be helping the public if you told us everything about yourself that you're trying to hide.
Well,
why don't you share with us today on this show?
I think he was born female.
Oh,
well, first and foremost, I love the ladies long time. He's called Excalibur.
No, can't, bye. We're done. We're done. We're done. That is
No.
We're
You
done.
wanted me. Help me.
I
Help
would
you.
just like to say that we are all we're all in agreement, and with that agreement,
Everybody that's listening won't get that, but for the visual,
no,
people,
we don't need a visual.
That's all I'm gonna say. That is our time, ladies and gentlemen. As we exit the show today, I'd like to say thank you for being with us out here in these Sphere streets.
You're leaving us with Excalibur.
Yes, because he is the thing that legends are made of. Now,
Oh God.
make sure.
Men like to pull them out of stones, right? You know, it was men that dealt with Excalibur, right? It was not women. It was men that dealt with Excalibur. I mean, I'm just telling you the history of Excalibur. I'm not wrong. That's what dealt with men.
Only the owner pulled him out. So
Just okay. Well, lots of men touched it trying to get at it. So I mean, I'm just letting you know.
So what you're saying is a lot of men played with it first.
Yeah, exactly.
It had
So I
rounds.
mean, just
It was a very manly
he's
thing.
happy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we are so off topic right now.
Oh, now
It
we're
is.
off topic.
It is our time. Hope you've
didn't
enjoyed
have a
us,
comeback.
Jackie. I hope you've enjoyed being with us yet again, and I hope you come back another time to be with us, ladies and gentlemen. That's our time on the
Thank you
Sphere,
for
where we
having me.
discuss the laws of the land. I'm your host, Brennan Dunn. You can reach me on Twitter at @LegalMind. That's mine with a Y because there's always a question to be asked and answered. Alicia.
And my name is Alicia Ford. You can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at AllieOnSphere. And Jackie, how can they reach you?
At Jackie Esquire on Twitter.
Alrighty.
Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.